Welcome in, Slumpbusters. This is your boy Kyle. We've got a great video coming at you today. We are going to rank every single NBA team's leading scorers. This is a fun game because it's not just a list of who I think are the best players in the NBA. No. We can only take one per team. So each team will have one representation on this list, which means we could have some fun with teams that have multiple great players, don't have a lot of great players. Maybe someone's hurt this year and it's changing the math. It's a really fun game to play. It's slightly different than the who are the best players in the NBA game, and we're excited to bring it to you here on the Slumpbuster YouTube channel. So let's get started here. It looks like we have 5 tiers that I have created. We have our generational superstars, which is tier 1, basically. You know, these are the greatest of the great players in the NBA. Next tier is tier 2, which is like superstar caliber players and like under the best of circumstances can be best player on championship team. So tier 2, I'm gonna call elite players. It's basically another superstar tier, but we just need to separate the great generational superstars from everyone else here. So tier 2 is elite players. Tier 3 is all-stars. These are people that we kind of like pencil in every year as all-stars when we're trying to think of who are the 24 best players in the NBA. These are people that we usually come to first and foremost. Then we have fringe all-stars, you know, guys who have maybe made one all-star, could make an all-star in the near future. You know, their team's probably 8th or 9th in their conference, I would guess. If I had to make a joke here, I would call this the Nikola Vucevic Memorial Fringe All-Star tier. I think Nikola Vucevic made either 2 or 3 All-Stars with the Orlando Magic during that run. And then we have finally here top 50 players, because pretty much every team has a top 50 player, right? These are the guys who, you know, their team might not be great, but they'll be kind of hanging around the top 50 player in the league tier because it's hard to be the leading scorer on a team, even a bad team. So these are the guys who are, you know, their team's looking to get better players. You know, ideally they'd be the 3rd best player on a team that makes the playoffs, but they happen to be the 1st best team on a non-playoff team. I guess most of these are non-playoff teams. There might be one weird one in there, but those are the tiers I have here. There's 5 of them that we're going to. So let's get the game started here with our first name, Karl-Anthony Towns. Shout out Karl-Anthony Towns for being the leading scorer on the Minnesota Timberwolves this year, with the Ant-Man Anthony Edwards playing awesome this year. Timberwolves are in the playoffs this year. Congratulations to the Minnesota Timberwolves for making this playoff run this year. So Karl-Anthony Towns is all-star, so he'll be in the 3rd group for sure. Karl-Anthony Towns is a shoe-in all-star every year. I think he's one of the leading scorers in the NBA this year. So Karl-Anthony Towns gets to go in the all-star group. Next up, we have Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, not just the leading scorer for the Brooklyn Nets, leading scorer in all of the NBA, and also has like 7 scoring titles in his career or something like that. Kevin Durant's generational star. He's the best player in the NBA, bar none, other than maybe Giannis right now, but it's pretty close. I think Giannis has a higher efficiency rating than him at this point, but yeah, bar none. Shout out Kevin Durant. He is very much a generational superstar for sure. Next up, we have Jayson Tatum from Juju's Boston Celtics. Top 10 scorer in the league, by the way. Shout out to Jayson Tatum for being a top 10 scorer in the NBA this year. He's averaging 26 points a game for Celtics team that's kind of just hovering around 500 right now. They'll be in the playoffs just because they have Jayson Tatum on their team. Jayson Tatum's an all-star. I don't think he's starting in the all-star game this year. So Jayson Tatum firmly locked into an all-star. Every year he's an all-star, but Boston's just banking on him becoming a generational star. So Jayson Tatum, you get to be next up in our list. Next up on here, I have Nikola Jokic. And this is a fun game to play with Nikola Jokic because Jokic is MVP of the league, going to be top 5 in the MVP this year. But I think he's an all-star and not a generational star, because I think of Giannis as the generational star in his group. And he's kind of the cutoff point, right? Like Jokic is one of the 5 to 6 best players in the NBA, but I think he's kind of the cutoff line right now for generational star. I know he's 9th in the league in scoring this year, and he's close to averaging another triple-double. I mean, gosh, It's tough. I'm gonna put him second group. And again, Denver, best of circumstances, Denver can win a championship with Nikola Jokic. Under the best of circumstances, they can absolutely win a championship, but this is not the best of circumstances where they are right now. Next up, Domantas Sabonis. At least by the time we're recording this, he's still an Indiana Pacer. So Domantas Sabonis just edged out Malcolm Brogdon as the leading scorer for the Indiana Pacers, the lowly Indiana Pacers, who are not doing very well this year. They're doing better than they were at the start of the year, but yeah, not great for Indiana. Sabonis also leads the team in rebounds and assists. Kind of funny. He is definitely the best player on a Pacers team that is careening towards a rebuild. Sabonis, you know what? Let's put him fringe all-star. Sabonis is fringe all-star group. I wanted to put him in the all-star. He's going to make it 2 years in a row, maybe to the all-star game. Sabonis, fringe all-star. He's averaging 19 and 12. This is probably the best of the fringe all-stars. This one's tough to do to him. Next up, we have Bradley Beal. Are the Wizards going to give him a supermax? Are the Wizards not going to give him a supermax? This is a difficult question. He's averaging 23 points a game this year. The next closest player on his team is Kyle Kuzma with 16 points per game. Spencer Dinwiddie also plays for the Wizards. I was so right about the Wizards, by the way. Can we just acknowledge how right I was about the Washington Wizards not actually being a good team when they had one of the best records in the NBA? Like, I was so right about them. They're going to struggle to make the playoffs because you're a slightly worse team without Russell Westbrook than you are with Kyle Kuzma's 16 a game and Montrezl Harrell giving you 14 points off the bench and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and all of these former Lakers that are just inhabiting Washington. By the way, Denny for Washington's only averaging like 7 points a game. It seems to be not a great pick. Bradley Beal's easy. He's all-star group. Bradley Beal makes the all-star team every year. At least he will make the all-star team every year, as he probably should. So shout out to Bradley Beal. He has had a fantastic run. Next up, we have Trae Young. Trae Young is close, but he's all-star for now. Give him time. Trae Young, once he gets older, he's going to be elite player. He'll be in tier 2, no question, sometime soon, because in his generation, which is right now Luka and Ja Morant and Zion, he's kind of right in that next group there. So Trae Young's right there. He's almost there, but for now, he's in the all-star tier. Dejounte Murray, who is apparently the leading scorer on a not-so-good San Antonio Spurs team. He's averaging 19.4 a game, 9 assists, 8 rebounds. Pretty dang good, leading the team in assists, also leading the team in steals. Nice job, Dejounte Murray, playing for the 11th seed San Antonio Spurs. Dejounte Murray, top 50 player. He's not going to make an all-star team anytime soon. Maybe he will in the near future, but Dejounte Murray is a no question top 50 player in the NBA. One of these great Popovich developments, because he was, I think, the 30th pick in his draft class. So shout out to Dejounte Murray for a fantastic start to your career. Next up, we have Joel Embiid of the process Philadelphia 76ers. What a difficult one to choose from. I'm going to go elite. I'm not going to go generational star for Joel Embiid because, again, just like Jokic, Giannis is his generation star. So Embiid is going to win MVP this year, finished second last year. He's right there. You could argue it's the Giannis and Embiid generation for how good he's been, just like Kevin Durant has Steph Curry and James Harden's right in the mix behind them. But I got to go with second tier for Joel Embiid. He's not quite Giannis. He's not quite Kevin Durant. He's right there, just like Jokic. He's right there. He's so good. This one might come back to haunt me. Don't get mad at me for this one. This one really hurts. This one's difficult to figure out. I'm not trying to hate on this one. Definitely not trying to hate with this pick. This one's just a tough one to choose from. We have the one, the only, Miles Bridges. Because yes, Miles Bridges is the leading scorer for the Charlotte Hornets this year. By the way, the Charlotte Hornets, who lead the NBA in points per game this year. The Charlotte Hornets, fun fact, lead the entire league in points per game. I thought it would be LaMelo Ball. He's 0.7 points behind Miles Bridges. Terry Rozier, 18 a game. Gordon Hayward, 17. Kelly Oubre, 17 a game. Shout out to the Hornets for team basketball when I said they were idiotic for letting Kemba Walker walk away and only getting Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward in exchange. Shout out to the Charlotte Hornets, putting together a hell of a team this year. So Miles Bridges, what do I do with Miles Bridges? Because I was ready to put LaMelo Ball in the All-Star group, soon to be an elite player, second in his generation behind Luka. But man, Miles Bridges, fringe all-star, most improved player in the NBA this year. Miles Bridges gets to be fringe all-star there with our boy Domantas Sabonis. So yeah, shout out to Miles Bridges. Did not realize that he was the leading scorer this year for the Charlotte Hornets. You know, sometimes you learn something new every day. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Clippers. And I gotta be honest, I'm not even sure who the leading scorer for the Los Angeles Clippers is at this point. It is Reggie Jackson. Jesus Christ. Reggie Jackson. Okay. It's technically Paul George, but Paul George hasn't played since December, so he hasn't qualified with enough games to be on this list. It's Reggie Jackson. Jesus Christ. Reggie Jackson is the leading scorer. The Clippers are in the playoffs this year. How is Reggie Jackson the leading scorer on the Clippers? 16 a game. That's lower than Sabonis and the Dejounte Murray. I guess Paul George is the reason why, but can we make another tier that's just oof, like Reggie Jackson? Can we make Reggie Jackson gets the 6th tier as his own? But yeah, whatever. The lowest possible tier, that's Reggie Jackson. Are we going to find anyone worse than Reggie Jackson on this game? This is going to be interesting because, oh God, I didn't realize Reggie Jackson was the leading scorer for the Clippers. Dude was just signed. He got cut by the Pistons, who are now terrible. And he's just all of a sudden the leading scorer for a team that's in the playoffs right now. Next up, we have Darius Garland. Shout out to Garland and the Cavs, who are making me eat my words on that team not being great. They're about as good as the Lakers this year, which is kind of ridiculous to say, but yes, the Cleveland Cavaliers are as good as the Los Angeles Lakers. Garland, fringe all-star for Darius Garland. And I know he hasn't made an all-star team this year. He'll probably make it this year because someone's going to make it from the Cavs team. And it's probably not going to be Mobley. And we know Sexton's been hurt all season. So it's probably Garland. Garland is in the fringe all-star group. So shout out Darius Garland. Great season so far for him. Next up, we have Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Milwaukee Bucks. Generational superstar. I don't need to do much explanation there. Oh, hold up. Damian Lillard doesn't qualify on this list. So apparently it is Norman Powell. Norman Powell is the leading scorer for the Portland Trailblazers because Damian Lillard hasn't played enough games to qualify on this list. Norman Powell. Congratulations, Norman Powell. You get to be top 50 player, I guess. Or you get to go in the oof tier with Reggie Jackson. That's more semantics, but Damian Lillard's played 20 games this year, and that's not enough to qualify for this list. So shout out Norman Powell. You get to be the leading scorer by semantics. Congratulations to Norman Powell. Next up, we have Christian Wood. Christian Wood for the Rockets. I'll never forget going to watch the Pistons play the Kings and making Christian Wood jokes that we would never hear from him again. And then he signed with the Rockets and is now the leading scorer on a terrible Rockets team. Top 50 player, easy for Christian Wood. Christian Wood is at this point in his career kind of a fun option to watch because he's a great basketball player. He's just on a team where he gets the opportunity to score a lot of points. And I think a good team to great team has Christian Wood as their 4th or 5th best player. Now, Jalen Green's probably the best player on the Rockets right now. It's just that Jalen Green only averages 14 a game compared to Christian Wood averaging 17 a game, but he has a higher efficiency rating than Jalen Green. So maybe Christian Wood is better than rookie Jalen Green, who is supposed to be the Lord and Savior for the Houston Rockets at this point in the season. Maybe it'll work out for them. Who knows? Luka legend. Luka is his generational's best player, even though he is a child. So Luka, you get to be generational talent. I'm not saying Luka's better than Joel Embiid. He just gets to be generational talent because Luka is a generational talent in this group. So like I put Trae Young a tier too low, Luka's probably in the 2nd tier, but he's a generational talent. So we'll put him in the group with Kevin Durant and Giannis at this point. I retroactively want to go back and put Joel Embiid there. I'm not going to, but looking at how this is breaking down, Joel Embiid probably deserves to be. Next up, Brandon Ingram, which should be Zion, but Zion has not played this year for the New Orleans Pelicans. Brandon Ingram made an all-star team 2 years ago in the Western Conference. So similarly to Miles Bridges, fringe all-star for Brandon Ingram, because Brandon Ingram has indeed made an all-star team within the last 2 calendar years. So shout out to Brandon Ingram. You get to be a fringe all-star, and he's the second best player on his team anyways. I know the Pelicans are missing the playoffs right now because he has to be the best player on his team, but Brandon Ingram's a fine player. A lot of empty calories, obviously. This has been the case going back to when he was on the Lakers, is that a Brandon Ingram-led team has never made the playoffs. Brandon Ingram, been the best player on his team for like 5 straight years, except for last year when Zion was healthy. Brandon Ingram, fringe all-star, very good player. Also, a lot of empty calories. Lots and lots of empty calories for our buddy Brandon Ingram. Next up, the number 1 pick in the NBA draft, Cade Cunningham. He is a top 50 player right now, but he's also a rookie. So give Cade Cunningham some time, and Cade Cunningham will become a stud here in the next few years. It's the best the Pistons had. Last year, it was like Mason Plumlee would have been on this, and he would have been in the tier with our buddies Reggie Jackson and Norman Powell in the oof group. So top 50 player is the name of the game for Cade Cunningham. He's not close to being an all-star yet, but it's his first year. He's averaging 16 a game, probably going to win Rookie of the Year. And this is the beginning of something great for Cade Cunningham. Maybe not Luka great, but still the beginning of something great for one Cade Cunningham. Devin Booker, top 10 scorer in the NBA this year. Devin Booker, you get to be in the elite group. You get to be one of your generation's elite players. And again, it's wrong that Joel Embiid and Devin Booker are in the same tier. I get it. It's wrong. But Devin Booker, the Suns go as far as Devin Booker goes. I know some people want to say Chris Paul's the best player on the Suns. They're great compliments to each other, and it was surprising that they made the run they did last year. But I think we all underestimated Devin Booker a little bit because of those first few years when he had to play on some really bad Phoenix Suns teams. So shout out Devin Booker. You definitely get to be in the elite group. You know what, Juju, if you're hearing this in the background, could you edit Joel Embiid into the generational superstar group? I feel bad now for putting Joel Embiid a tier too low too early in this game. Put Joel Embiid into the generational superstar group retroactively. All right, next up, we have DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan, leading scorer for the Chicago Bulls, about to be a top 4 seed and maybe lose in the first round, maybe win a first round series before they get smacked by KD and Giannis. This is the only team that has 2 players averaging 25 points a game in the NBA. That includes the Brooklyn Nets. That includes the Milwaukee Bucks. The only team in the NBA with 2 players averaging more than 25 points a game is the Chicago Bulls, with DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. Vucevic also averaging 17 and 11. Shout out to Nikola Vucevic. He's having an awesome season. Empty stat Vucevic, as we like to call him. DeRozan's all-star. I know he's starting in the all-star game this year. DeRozan's in the all-star tier. 3rd tier for DeMar DeRozan. Perennial all-star. Getting back to that point. Spurs really botched it with him, didn't they? Spurs really did not maximize what they had with DeMar DeRozan. Kind of a messy situation for how that one ended up turning out. Not great. Toronto Raptors, it is Fred VanVleet, who just edges out Pascal Siakam. Both of them are averaging 21 a game. VanVleet's 21.7, Pascal 21.0. So just ever so slightly, Fred VanVleet gets it. Fred VanVleet's a fringe all-star. Pascal Siakam's also a fringe all-star, just for the spirit of giving Pascal Siakam his nod. But Fred VanVleet is going to be in the All-Star game this year. I know people were arguing he should have started over Trae Young. Shout out to Fred VanVleet. He's in the same group as Sabonis and Miles Bridges and Brandon Ingram. All of those guys are kind of in the same group where they're the best players on teams that are, okay. Some of them are going to miss the playoffs. Some of them are going to make the playoffs, but it's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes when you're doing all of this analysis. Next up, we have the Miami Heat, and there's about 4 people who it could be, so I'm interested to see who it ends up being. It is Jimmy Butler. Okay, so it is Jimmy Butler for the Miami Heat and not one Tyler Hero, who, by the way, Tyler Hero has been coming off the bench for most of the season this year. Give that man 6th man of the year, no question. Tyler Hero, 20 points a game this year. He's been awesome, but it is Jimmy Butler. Could have been Bam Adebayo too. I know Bam's averaging 17 a game this year. Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, Bam, 3 best players. Also, they've got Kyle Lowry, who doesn't score as much, but Miami's this weird team that is strength in numbers-y. So Jimmy Butler is all-star, third tier, easy. Lock him into the all-star every year. Although he didn't make the all-star team last year for Miami. That was kind of a weird one. But yeah, Jimmy Butler, all-star, easy. Next up here, we have Donovan Mitchell of the Utah Jazz. Top 12 scorer in the NBA this year. Maybe the best player on his team, but Rudy Gobert is one of the best defensive players in the NBA, and it's hard for us to measure defense. So, you know, maybe he's the second best player on his team, but they're a really good team because they have him and Rudy Gobert. Donovan Mitchell, he is all-star. Donovan Mitchell, he's close to being generational guy, real close to being generational guy. Donovan Mitchell and Jayson Tatum are probably the cutoff points of elite players. That's probably where I'm cutting it off. Again, Damian Lillard is in the elite group too. Shout out to the Utah Jazz for me never believing in them, but still continuing to put a great team forward. They've got, again, great depth this year. They didn't lose very many pieces last year. Donovan Mitchell, obviously their leading scorer because Rudy Gobert can't really score outside of like 5 feet, but Rudy Gobert is amazing defensively. The Oklahoma City Thunder, a terrible, terrible team with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being the leading scorer for them. Josh Giddey, I would like to give him his props as well. He's their number 6 pick in the draft. He doesn't score a lot, but he is having a fantastic season. Yeah, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, top 50 player, not an all-star. But this is kind of what happens when you play on a team where you just get the empty stat opportunities. When he was on the Clippers, he was the 6th best player on the 8th seed in the Western Conference, and then he gets all those opportunities with OKC, and now he's a leading scorer, best player, someone OKC offered. I can't emphasize how cool this is. They offered the 6th pick and him for Cade Cunningham to the Pistons, and the Pistons declined. It would have been a fascinating trade if it had gone down, but it did not. But they still have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 22 points a game this year, close to 23 points a game. He's one of the 20 leading scorers in the NBA this year. A lot of it empty stats on a team where Lou Dort is the 2nd leading scorer and Mike Muscala, 4th leading scorer this year. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt. Steph Curry. Steph Curry is the next up on our list. This is an easy one. You can put him in the generational talent group, still playing at generational talent levels. MVP caliber good for Steph Curry. By the way, Andrew Wiggins starting in the All-Star game. Woof. Probably should have been Draymond Green instead of him, even with the Warriors. So, you know, turned out okay there. De'Aaron Fox from my hometown, Sacramento Kings, or adopted hometown. They play like 15 minutes behind me. If you go that way, they play about 15 minutes away. It's a terrible, like $7 tickets to watch them play against Christian Wood and the Houston Rockets. De'Aaron Fox went from shooting 37% from 3 to shooting like 26% from 3, I think, this year. Like, De'Aaron Fox has been terrible shooting the basketball this year. I know people want to move Halliburton to point guard. Harrison Barnes was right behind him, but Harrison Barnes is probably going to get traded at the deadline. Top 50 player for De'Aaron Fox. If De'Aaron Fox is your 3rd best player, you're probably a playoff team, kind of like Miles Bridges, where we talked about with the Hornets. Miles Bridges is the leading scorer for the Hornets, but he's like their 3rd best player behind LaMelo Ball and Gordon Hayward and or Terry Rozier. If he's your 3rd best player, you're probably good enough to make the playoffs. If De'Aaron Fox is your best player, you're the 12 seed in the Western Conference. Ja Morant. Hell of a year for Ja Morant. He gets to be, let's go elite tier for Ja Morant, because Ja Morant is in the Luka Zion generation, and then he's the next great guy behind him. So if we're going to put Luka up there, we're going to put Ja Morant up there as well. LeBron James comes up next here on our list. LeBron James. This is the difficult question of difficult questions. Is LeBron James still a generational talent, or is LeBron James now only elite level good? You know what? If I put Joel Embiid up there, I'll put LeBron James still. If I was having that back and forth with Joel Embiid, I'll put LeBron James still in generational talent. He's probably the worst of the generational talents because, you know, his generation is before Kevin Durant's, but I will include LeBron James for the sake of this, even though, you know, he's probably the 5th or 6th, he's best player. Jokic is probably as good as him this year. Let's just, you know, be frank about that. Jokic is as good as our buddy LeBron James, and that's fine. Julius Randle of the New York Knicks. I think we've only got a couple left here because I was waiting for Julius Randle to come up. What do we do with Julius Randle? Well, he made the All-Star team last year, and he's not going to make it this year. So fringe All-Star. Julius Randle, fringe All-Star. I was debating of putting him in the top 50 group, but he did make an All-Star team last year. So if Brandon Ingram's a fringe All-Star, Julius Randle is also a fringe All-Star. I think they were teammates for 1 year together with the Lakers, if I remember correctly. I believe Julius Randle and Brandon Ingram played together. They didn't play together on the Pelicans because the Pelicans let Randle leave in free agency to go to the Knicks when they traded away Anthony Davis. So I think Randle and Ingram were teammates together at one point. All of those baby Lakers that are now fringe All-Stars on bad teams. Finally, we have Karl-Anthony, the leading scorer for the absolutely putrid Orlando Magic. Absolutely terrible Orlando Magic basketball team. But Karl-Anthony's fun. He's going to be in the dunk contest. That'll be fun to watch in a couple weeks. Karl-Anthony, you get to be top 50 player. I was going to make a joke about Karl-Anthony being in the Reggie Jackson and Norman Powell group, but Karl-Anthony, congratulations. You get to be a top 50 player in the NBA. Even if I don't exactly believe you're a top 50 player in the NBA, you're better than Jalen Suggs, it looks like, and he was the number 5 pick in the draft. They play the same position pretty much, and Karl-Anthony's been dominating at this point. So 20th pick in the draft in 2020, turning into a real find for the absolutely terrible 8-40 Orlando Magic. So congratulations to Karl-Anthony for getting to dominate. That was disrespectful. The Magic are actually 11-40. In fairness, they have won 3 more games than I thought they did. They are 11-40, not 8-40. I said 8-40 as a joke. They are, in fact, 11-40. So that's all of our tiers list here. So we've got the 5-ish groups all done here. I have to say, I think this turned out okay. I had the little Joel Embiid controversy back and forth, but a lot of fringe All-Stars. There are more fringe All-Stars than I thought there would be. But, you know, we ended up having a relatively healthy balance between all of the tiers here. I know Ja Morant getting in the elite group was something that went back and forth for me, especially because I didn't even put Donovan Mitchell in there. So, you know, Donovan Mitchell over Ja Morant, that's one that you can debate in the comments a bit. Thanks for stopping in, everybody, and have a fantastic day. Make sure to check out all of the other great content here on the Slumpbuster YouTube and Slumpbuster podcast.